Welcome one and all. This is Amir and I'll be your host and your host for this course and all the following modules. Here I'll be dealing with this English course for class 11th. I'll be starting with this Hornbill book, the first story which was written by Khushwant Singh, The Portrait of a Lady. इससे पहले मैं ये सब चीज़ें शुरू करूँ इससे पहले मैं थोड़ा सा आपको एक गुरु मंत्र होता है वो देना चाहूँगा। वो ये कि जब कभी भी आप कोई भी वर्क पढ़ें, उस वर्क को पढ़ने से पहले उसके राइटर के बारे में थोड़ा सा पढ़ना ज़रूरी है। क्यों? क्योंकि हम नहीं जानते कि वो जो वर्क है वो राइटर ने किस सिचुएशन में लिखा। हम वर्क तो पढ़ लेंगे लेकिन उससे वर्क को हम ज़्यादा अच्छी तरह तब समझ पाएंगे जब हम ऑथर की साइकी को समझें कि उसने क्या किस फीलिंग्स के साथ किस इंटेंसिटी के साथ वो वर्क लिखा। सो इट इज़ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड दिस साइकी इन ऑर्डर टू हैव अ मच मोर बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द टेक्स्ट. Here too I am following the same pattern. I'll be first explaining you a bit about Khushwant Singh, then I'll be heading to the Portrait of a Lady. So, क्या कहते हो दोस्तों, चले चलो. So starting with Khushwant Singh, he was one of the greatest Indian writers, born on February 2nd, 1915 and left for his heavenly abode on March the 20th, 2014. As I said, he was one of the greatest Indian writers. The best known works of him are Delhi, Train to Pakistan and The Company of Women, out of which Train to Pakistan is much popular and is made into a film. I hope आप शायद आपने देखी भी हो ट्रेन टू पाकिस्तान. नॉवेल के ऊपर एक मूवी भी है. तो आगे he was also awarded. He was not just a simple writer writing or just a simple member of Rajya Sabha. Yes, he was also a member of Rajya Sabha, but he was a decorated personality. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan in the year 1974 by the President of India, but due to or not just not as a sign of something else, but as a sign or as a symbol of protest, he gave his award back in the year 1984. So his this is a bit about Khushwant Singh. Now let's get straight to this text. Here it is, The Portrait of a Lady. इस सब को शुरू करने से पहले let me explain one thing to you. You need to have your textbook, whether in hard copy or in, we can say that or in mobile or in laptop, anywhere you like. You need to have a copy and also a pen, so that I may, whatever I dictate, you may write it down, and later when you will revise your knowledge will about the text will grow much more intensely. So it would be great, it would be suggested that you should and you must take your copy and pen with you along with your textbook. So because I'll read the text line by line and also keep on explaining and ask you to underline something lines and keep on dictating. So you need to pay very intense attention to my words, because I'll be also giving you assignments and questions and answers. So it would be amazing. Yes, let's start. Bismillah. The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. My grandmother, like everybody's grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. 20 years. This means that the writer and his grandmother would be together around 20 years. People said that she had once been young and pretty and had even had a husband, but that was hard to believe. My grandfather's portrait hung above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. He wore a big turban and loose-fitting clothes. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest, and he looked at least 100 years old. बहुत बुजुर्ग थे. He did not look the sort of person who would have a wife or children. He looked as if he could only have lots and lots of grandchildren. As for my grandmother being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. Here, this particular expression is important. Please underline it. The thought was almost revolting. Let me first explain you what is the meaning of an expression. The meaning of an expression basically is the action of making known one's thoughts or feelings. It is like something very ornamental. Like we used to have idioms, na? Here we have expressions. So it helps us in understanding the psychology of characters a bit more deeply. So the thought was revolting. What do you mean by revolting? Revolting refers to certain conflict or certain opposition against someone or something. This is revolting. As you have seen, the grandfather's character is seen very aged. It appears that he is 100 years old and could not have a wife and children. In fact, just grandchildren. And his character is also seen with a long white beard. And while on the contrary, grandmother is portrayed as very young and pretty. So these two thoughts are conflicting or contradicting in their own sense. So this particular thought, this particular expression over here refers to a thought which is creating a conflict in our minds. That how it can be, like a man could be so much older and his wife is still young and pretty. That thought appears to be almost revolting or almost conflicting in our minds. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child that seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of the prophets, and she used to tell us. She had always been short and fat and slightly bent. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. No, we were certain she had always been as we had known her, old, so terribly old that she could not have grown older, and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. She hopped about the house in spotless white, with one hand resting on her waist, and balanced her stoop and the other telling the beads of a rosary. Please underline this thing, telling the beads of a rosary. Here is another expression. Nearly all of us have seen the word rosary. Rosary, if I were to talk about in Hindi, it would be like mala. And if I were to talk about in Urdu, it would be tasbih. And like in mala or tasbih, we used to have beads and we used to keep on chant or reciting phrases from holy scriptures. She used to do the same thing. She used to put one hand on her waist, and with the other hand she used to keep on telling the beads of a rosary. This sort of this physical appearance appears to be very, very much exclusive to grandparents, because we have seen, or we can imagine grandparents like this, with one hand on their waist, and with the one hand and with the other telling the beads of a rosary. So what is meant by telling the beads of a rosary? Telling the beads of a rosary, like as I said, repeating the phrases from holy scriptures on the beads. Moving further, her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale, puckered face, and her lips constantly moved in inaudible prayer. Yes, she was beautiful. She was like the winter landscape in the mountains, an expanse of pure white serenity, breathing peace and contentment. An expanse of pure white serenity. Before explaining you this particular expression, let me first explain you the meaning of words. We have heard EXPENCE, but here is expanse, and that was expense. Expense refers to the, if I were to talk about in Hindi, kharcha. And expanse over here refers to a wide continuing area of something. Now if I were to talk about serenity, serenity is the quality of being serene. Serene meaning calm, peaceful and untroubled or undisturbed. So this particular expression is highlighting the character or conduct of author's grandmother, like how calm and peaceful and serene her conduct is. Moving on, my grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. She said her morning prayer in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice, but never bothered to learn it. Then she would fetch my wooden slate, which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot and a red pen, tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. After a breakfast of a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. मजेदार कहानी. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer, while the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayers in a chorus. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we threw to them. When my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. A turning point. Please underline it. So these are certain expressions. These expressions help to inculcate liveliness in the text. It helps to break the monotony. So the literal meaning of a turning point, like we used to have a point, we tends to turn around. After turning around, like for example, you take the example of a roundabout. From roundabout we get 4 directions. Suppose we are coming from the south and we need to go to east. So after going on towards the roundabout, we will go at our right hand side. We are changing the point, we are changing the direction. We are turning our focus from north to south. We are turning our attention to something else. which might prove our we can what which might prove our um, our focus somewhere else. So similarly, in the context of this play, this text, the turning point is refers to that point where the relationship between author and his grandmother changes drastically when they move to city. The turning point is this in context to this particular short story. The literal meaning being a time at which a decisive change in a situation occurs. Moving on. As the years rolled by, we saw less of each other. For some time she continued to wake me up and get me ready for school. When I came back, she would ask me what the teacher had taught me. I would tell her English words and little things of Western science and learning, the law of gravity, Archimedes' principle, the world being round, etc. This made her unhappy. She could not help with my lessons. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and scriptures. One day I announced that we were being given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lewd associations. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentlefolk. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. She rarely talked to me after that. When I went up to the university, so this is the third phase in the life of author, which is starting when he was going to university. The second one was the time when he, along with his grandmother, went to the city to live with his parents. And the first one was when he was there in the village, where his and his grandmother's relationship was very good. But as the stages moved further, as the story progressed, their relationship loosened its strength. So let's get on to the third stage of author's life. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda, breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirpings. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulders, some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. Accepted her seclusion with resignation. Before going on with the explanation of this particular expression, let me first tell you the meaning of seclusion. Seclusion basically is a state of being private, of being to oneself only and away from other people. So this particular expression in this context means that grandmother took her loneliness calmly. She didn't created any nuisance. She didn't created nuisance would be a wrong word. She didn't created anything wrong. She took her loneliness calmly and accepted her fate without being sentimental at all. Because we know as we have seen in the first stage of author's life, she used to talk to author a lot. She used to go to school with him. She used to wake him up. She used to talk to him a lot. But with the progression of the story, this thing lessened, and she she was very disappointed with the Western system of education, because they were teaching all of the things, all laws, but not paying any attention to the spiritual values. So grandmother took her loneliness calmly and accepted her fate without being sentimental at all. We never saw her crying when author started going to school. Yes, she felt disappointed. She felt very sad, but she didn't cry. She accepted her loneliness with utmost sincerity. Now, moving on with the second expression, a veritable bedlam of chirpings. Bedlam is a scene of uproar or confusion. It is and frivolous refer not frivolous, but chirpings, as we all are well aware about, chirpings refer to birds, the sound of birds which they utter. So this particular expression is referring to the noise, to the confusion, and to the chaos which is caused by the chirpings of many sparrows that used to come and stay with grandmother. So this expression basically refers to that. Moving on further with the story. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell, but my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer, her mind was lost in prayer, her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently she kissed my forehead, and when I left I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. But that was not so. After 5 years I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes. Frivolous rebukes. Frivolous, the literal meaning of frivolous is not having serious purpose or value, something which appears to be very non-serious. Rebukes refers to an expression of sharp disapproval or criticism. So this phrase, frivolous rebukes, in the context of the story, refers to the grandma's criticism and checking on the sparrows, which is all in vain, because her reprimand was not understood by the sparrows, because she is a human and they were the birds. They didn't understand the language of humans. So this particular expression refers to the old woman and her criticism and checking going in vain for the sparrows. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum and started to sing. For several hours she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. Isn't it appearing very, very different? Because in the story up till now, she was seen praying, and all of a sudden, one evening, she decides not to pray. In fact, she collected all the women of the neighborhood and started beating the drum. It's a very, very strange thing. This please underline this: the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum. Sagging refers to sinking or bulging downwards under weight or pressure or through lack of strength, meaning weak, something which is very weak. Dilapidated refers to a state of disrepair or ruin as a result of age or neglect. The meaning of the particular expression refers to the old or withered skin of that old drum which is being beaten by grandmother. It can be seen as a symbolic comparison to grandma, just like grandma is becoming old, is weakened, and is suffering from loneliness. Though she collected all the women of the neighborhood and started beating the drum, started singing, but the drum, don't you think that the drum could be taken as her symbolic representation? Please provide me with your answers in the comment below or in the assignment which I'll assign you. The next morning, she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. We protested, but she ignored our protests. She lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face and we knew that she was dead. Pallor refers to a paleness. This particular line, a peaceful pallor or a peaceful paleness spread on her face and we knew that she was dead. जैसा आप लोगों ने देखा हो, जब भी किसी का इंतकाल होता है या कोई किसी की डेथ होती है तो उसके जो डिसीज्ड होता है उसके चेहरे पर एक अजीब सा एक येलोइशनेस आ जाती है. एक ऐसा लगता है कि शी और ही इज़ नाउ एट रेस्ट. तो यहाँ पे सेम चीज़ की बात हो रही है. लेट्स मूव फर्दर. We lifted her off the bed and, as customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with the red shroud. After a few hours of the morning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with the blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in the courtyard. All over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff wrapped in the red shroud, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirping. We felt sorry for the birds and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs, the way my grandmother used to. and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweepers swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. Another contradicting thing or idea. Previously, when grandmother used to call all the sparrows, there happens to be a word. Do you remember which word I was referring? The same word which happens to be which I referred to previously for noise and confusions of birds. Bedlam. Yes. Now there happens to be no bedlam, nothing. Previously, all the sparrows used to chirp, used to sit on the head of grandmother, on her legs, on her, around her. But and all the sparrows used to chirp so much so that it appears to be a bedlam of chirping. So, and now in the end, when she was dead and her corpse was carried away, all the sparrows lay very quietly there. But it seems as if they are mourning for her. They are sad. They were so much sad that even the breadcrumbs which were thrown by Arthur's grandmother made no difference to them. And after sparrows mourning, when they flew away, the sweepers swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. This showed a different sort of relationship of grandma with the sparrows. Grandmother seems to be so much happy with the birds that the half an hour through which she used to play with them appears to be the most happy half hour of her day. So this sort of relationship is not so common in humans, but it is common in a human and a bird, as is shown in this particular short story. So this is the story, The Portrait of a Lady. What do you think that why this chapter is titled Portrait of a Lady? What do you mean by a portrait? It is a drawing of a particular person. So how do you think grandmother is portrayed or is drawn with words? I would like you all to write a character sketch of grandmother and her relationship with the sparrows on the one hand, and then I would like you all to compare it with her relationship with the author. I want you to compare a human relationship with a human and a human relationship with an animal. I would like you to compare these two types of relationships. Now, moving on with the understanding of the text. There are many questions. I have explained you each and everything while I was reading the text. So, if you have listened carefully, you would answer all. Let's read the first question. The 3 phases of Arthur's relationship with his grandmother before he left the country to study abroad. The 3 relationships which I already told you and emphasized again and again. Like the first stage when they were in the village, the second in the city, and the third one is in the university. But you need to elaborate it. I am just providing you an overview. The second question. 3 reasons why the author's grandmother was disturbed when he started going to school. What do you think? Why grandmother was disturbed when the author started going to school? What could be the possible reasons? I want you all to write it and submit it to me ASAP. Now, moving on to the third question. 3 ways in which author's grandmother spent her days after he grew up. Interesting. I have read and emphasized each and every question. Fourth, the odd way in which author's grandmother behaved just before she died. Do you remember how throughout the story she was sane, praying, but just at the very last moment she changed. What was that change? I want you all to pay attention to. The way in which sparrows expressed their sorrow when the author's grandmother died. I just explained you this. How previously they used to chatter, they used to be the bedlam of chirpings, and when she died, what all happened with the sparrows. That should be your concern. All these sort of questions you need to write, you need to submit it as assignment. This is basically your assignment. I'll be providing you with more questions, with more thing to look on. So I want you all to submit your work. They are all in writing. This would be your assignment. Understanding the text, talking about the text, thinking about the language. Let me explain you thinking about language a bit. There are certain questions like can you think of a poem or a song in your language that talks of homecoming? You need to research it. It is related to personal research. I'll just explain you what is meant by this question. Since you all are grown up children, you are in 11th, you have that particular understanding how to understand the words. So I'll just give you a brief idea what could be the answer of it. So as you are saying that, can you think of a song or a poem in your language that talks of homecoming? You need to just recall any song or any poem in your language that where you will find the element of homecoming. By homecoming, we refer to returning to home, as we break it into 2 parts, home and coming. Returning to home or returning to a place like home. So there are numerous songs. You can refer to any song in your language, the language you speak. For example, if you are from North India, your language would be in your language. There are numerous songs. For example, if you are there are many languages in India like Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, Marathi, Gujarati, and numerous other languages. So you can pick any song from your own language, your mother tongue, and you can provide with the recording in your own voice. It would be very much amazing, you know. So this is a part of your assignment. Now, working with words, it says that notice the following uses of the word tell in the text. The word tell is used differently in all the sentences. Like, I'll give you the example of the first one. Her fingers were busy telling the beads. With telling we mean counting. And similarly, the third one, at her age, one could never tell. So the word tell is used differently in different contexts, and this is the beauty of the language. Any word is appearing with a meaning in one particular context might not appear with the same meaning in another context. So this is your lab, I would say. You need to work on it. So these are all the same thing which I told you. Noticing form. Here in this particular section you need to identify the forms of the verbs which were being used in these particular sentences. Like my mother was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for the 20 years that I had known her. There are three forms of has, have and had. You need to identify which form of verbs are used in these particular sentences. So these are all your assignments. I'll get back to you with the second chapter next time. So stay tuned and please remember to turn in your homeworks soon. So thank you students. In case of any query, feel free to ask anything. So this is your friend, your teacher, signing off. Goodbye until next time. Do take very good care of yourselves. Goodbye.